What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your host, Sunny, as always, from the podcast, It's Always Sunny in the Six. Happy Friday. Hope you guys had a super productive week. We are rolling into the holiday season, and it's that time of the year. We're wrapping up 2020, and today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, John. This is, I got to admit, this is actually one of the funnest episodes I've done so far to date. We talk about a number of different things, from taking ownership of your time, this rat race for luxuries, the indomitable spirit, and yeah, of course, John's path towards Sikhi. He's on that path, and knowing John, of course, for the people that do know him, his endless Dragonball Z references and motivation. So anyways, make sure to tune in the episode. It is a fun episode. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you already haven't done so. Check us out on Instagram at Always Sunny in the Six, and let's get the ball rolling. Let's go.
All along with me, and we're waiting for the sunlight, sunlight, for the sunlight.
Dude, like, how's the volume here?
It's new technology to me.
Yeah, it's a
It
little
seems
weird,
kind of
right?
intimidating.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's okay. I think that's where you gotta just get comfortable.
Yeah, man. It's
What's going on, guys? It's your host, Sunny, for the podcast. It's Always Sunny in the Six. And today I decided to launch and start, just to end off the year, a 2020 wrapped mini series of like maybe 9 episodes. Kind of wanted to get episode 50 in before the end of the year. And today I'm joined by a good friend of mine. What's up, buddy?
How's it going?
Yeah,
Nah.
John in the house. It's kind of weird. So what do you think about the setup, man? Because listen, the last time you were on the podcast, that was when Kobe passed away.
Yes.
We did like a tribute memorial. That was episode 8. We're at episode 41.
That was so.
So take
correct
that
me
in
if I'm wrong.
take that in for a second. It was episode 8. This is episode 41.
And this is the one and only podcast, Always Sunny in the Six.
It's the same podcast. I haven't
know.
changed shit. Like, you know what I mean? And here we are today.
First, I would like to ask, considering that, we are in this step of your journey, what got you started? Like, what was, I know it's maybe a redundant question, but
Right.
it's going to help me in my pursuit of what I want to achieve in terms of at least the initial steps.
I think it's like I every time I feel like I answer that question, I feel like the answer changes a little bit. Because I think I get a more and more appreciation that like 9 to 5 is great. Don't get me wrong. And, we live in a society where like, unfortunately, to make certain things happen, you got to make money, right? But the biggest ability that I think anybody has is this ability to create. And you always want to remember that at the forefront, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your child, whether it's you by yourself. The ability to create and do something that is a product of something that you do, from a thought to a tangible thing. And like 9 to 5s, sorry, you were going to say?
No, I was just in appreciation of that, because I sometimes feel like we're from that. I want to say we're not part of that creative generation, because every generation has been creative in history. But sometimes, when you want to put your head down and put that work in and provide for your family and take care of everyone, we tend to bury that creative side, and bury it because of purpose and responsibility.
Right.
So to take ownership of your time, to allow your passion to kind of flourish, I think it's going to be critical.
Well, I think like you got to change your relationship with that notion, right? Like if you feel like you don't have time to be creative because maybe you think it's childish, maybe you think it's an amateur thing to do, to create. That's what kids do, children do. I need to make money. I need to provide.
Yeah,
and that's like an ideology that's kind of existed in this world that we live in, where when you hit your 30s, 40s, you have a kid, second kid, whatever. That's it. Life
you
is
don't
over.
got time to create. You've created something that you got to be responsible for now.
You ask yourself, like, do you really want to live a life like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
not so much.
I want to be able to, and that's where I'm going to answer your question about like why I started this, is the ability to change and create and never be satisfied with the norm. I think that's really important in life, because you want to be comfortable, but you don't want to be too comfortable, if that makes sense.
And you've taken this seriously. I remember when we did the first podcast, you had the studio set up, and now it's here. You brought it to yourself, and you've effectively taken ownership of that time and creative space as well.
I also was in a quarantine, so I was like, fuck it.
You know,
I was
you-
like, yeah, I thought about it. I was like, shit, man, fuck. Like I paid all that rent for that studio, and that's when we did the Kobe, the
Yeah,
last podcast. I think it's one of those things where like this has become more of my way to interact and have genuine conversations. Like guys, the people that are tuning in right now, like, you know, we're chilling.
It's his home.
We've been talking already for the last 2 hours.
Easily 3. You know,
Yeah.
I've been here since almost 6.
John's like, hey, I think it's time for me to bounce. I'm like, dude, we got to record a podcast.
Yeah, it
So
was
this-
actually getting late. We forgot that half the stuff we're talking
So this
about.
want to
we should
give like
record
my
it.
audience and guests a context here. Like, you know, sometimes we're coming from a very deep conversation. So going back to what we were talking
Oh
about is
my.
that, just to give a little context, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
everyone's like, what
absolutely.
the fuck are these guys fucking Emily's talking about? Like, you know, like things are like this, right? Like we live in a society where you have to question. You know, always question, always see how you can evolve. And, you know, like, you know, one of the things me and you have been talking about, and I know we didn't get into it, but like the farmers' protest happening in India, I think it's you know, it's been happening since September, but it's also something that's been like a long time coming.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that what breaks my heart is when I see all these protests. I don't know if this is just the marketing aspect of it, but like the proportion and the mix of old people to young people is insane. And then it gets me thinking, well, what's the next generation of farmers? Who are the next generation of farmers? If that makes sense.
When I've seen some of these videos and
You know what I'm trying to say though? Like,
the representation is very diverse in age.
yeah,
And it kind of makes you think how deep that message is.
right.
How many chords it's striking. You know, we've seen videos of elderly people, the seniors of our community, fearless. But then on the flip side of that, the young are just as fearless.
Right. That's so true, actually. Yeah.
And how you got to imagine, you know, some of these kids, I can't even call them kids with the things that they're saying. That's
Right.
not things children say.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's somebody that's aware and mature of the situation and
right.
has conviction
For what?
for what they're standing for.
I think one of the things that I was thinking about when I initially answered that was like, I'm trying to understand what the future of farming is. Right? Like, this is important to me because now I come from a family and community of farmers, you know, and a lineage, and I see that this is like literally there. Like, if everybody understands what's going on, like there's 3 laws and bills that are being passed, and what they're essentially doing is like, you know, in Punjab is pretty much constituted of like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, and every landowner owns like less than two acres, I'd say, right? What they're effectively doing is like the crop that they make or produce or harvest, whether it's rice or whether it's wheat, they take it to like it's called like an MNPC. Sorry, I think it's called like, it's like a mandi pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's at the mandi where like they transact at a market price. If by chance the market and demand dynamics works against them and let's say below a minimum price, the government intervenes and they pay that minimum price. So like one of the guys, Jag, he's one of the lawyers here in Toronto, he said like, imagine right now if you were making $14 an hour and they were to take that away. How would you feel?
Start paying you 8 or something.
Who knows? $2 maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's where like, I think it's important to like be aware, protest, educate. And education is so important, man. I think it's so important and critical to do your research.
Well,
Because you want to be able to truly understand what's going on.
absolutely.
Right.
Education is the pillar and the foundation of any movement. But
Right.
what's interesting that I've observed recently is social media.
Yeah.
The interconnectivity between, you know, people of a diaspora, both North America, Europe, and in South Asia, all over the world, it's amazing. You know, people are able to control a narrative, not let it be, you know, slandered, keep
Right.
it honest, have some sort of accountability. I've seen videos of, you know, army and police behavior, and you look at the situation, what are people really fighting for?
Yeah.
The autonomy over their own life,
Yeah.
their own subsistence, their own the way of life they've been practicing all their
Like
for so many generations, their identity, their
generations, yeah.
culture, their music, everything that they've ever been.
Well, think about this. Like, you know, you take away that form of living. You don't just take someone's livelihood. You take our heritage.
You're taking
Like,
them.
you think of a Punjab, you think of Punjabi, It's about kheti. It's about farming. Sadi jameen. You take that away, and it becomes big pharma. What do you really have, right?
Well, the concern also is the precedence it sets.
Right.
And then, to go even further, to give it some more credence, and I said this to you before the podcast, and I'll say it now, is that obviously we're no experts in the situation.
Of course.
We're still learning. There's many people out there, and I encourage anyone listening to this to obviously do your research and study and look for the most accurate information. But speaking as pure opinion, and from what I've gauged throughout history, it's not like we should be surprised by this kind of tactic or what's happening.
Right.
You go back to the incidences of 1984, further back hundreds of years. How many countless examples are there? I'm not even qualified enough to even name a few of them, let alone how many there are.
Yeah.
Right. So, human beings, I believe, want to live amicably with each other. I don't think people are inherently malice.
What do you mean by that?
Like, obviously, this is coming from my own subjective point of view, but I don't feel as I'm living my life to be malice towards another. And I think there's a lot of people that live that way.
Right.
A lot of people simply want to, provide for themselves, live happy within themselves.
You look at a society today where this idea of envy, social media has kind of made that a little bit more propelled and a bit more active than it would have been normally. But that's what it is. Like, it's not more like maliciousness, but I think it's also a form of insecurity. Right. I think that you really need to be satisfied with who you are and what you have and truly appreciate it, and then take it from there. Right?
And maybe this goes into a whole reason why I've kind of moved more towards spirituality, is that like all of that rat race for all these luxuries is not going to matter.
Right.
And what are you taking with you? What we ask ourselves, we're older now, man. Yeah. If no one here on this podcast knows, me and Sonny were taking a little trip down memory lane. And, he may post a picture of this podcast of me wearing a turban now and having a beard, but the pictures we were looking at, that person I was looking at, who was myself, I don't even recognize. A big step in who I was in terms of my learning.
Right.
But, you and I have... I remember our concerns back then and how different they are now, and what's been the same and what hasn't.
Right.
And
what's been like the biggest shock?
Well,
where have you seen
I wouldn't say shock. I would say the biggest affirmation that has come out of, kind of growing up is the key and focus towards a meaningful but simple life.
Right.
Right.
I like that, dude.
You want to not just live simply. It's easy to live simple. I wouldn't say it's easy to live simple, but it's achievable to live simple. Right? But in that humility of living simple, you want to still have a lot of meaning in what your actions are. Right? They don't have to be big actions. They could be a lot of little actions that accumulate over time.
Yeah.
But essentially, I think I may have talked about this previously. It's like a good, bad Dragonball Z kind of situation out in the world in terms of energies.
Right.
And that's
By the way, I was waiting for a Dragonball Z
it had to come.
I was like, is it going to what time? Before 15 minutes before?
I was driving in my car with Bluetooth, listening to a Super Saiyan 3 theme, same tune for 15 years.
I mean, if you think about it, like, those were the good days, right? And for everybody that knows in our circle, like, how much we've grown to from where we were once upon a time to where we are today. And that's the beauty of life, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to get you thinking, it's like, where am I going to be when I'm 40?
Yep.
I'm like, it's a wild ride.
Yep.
Like, for anybody in their own way.
And now we're sitting here talking in a quarantine with the world. We're in quarantine. Like, there's a pandemic, Sonny. Last time we talked, Kobe passed, and now we're in a global lockdown where they're talking about possible vaccines being not mandatory, but you'll face restrictions if you don't use them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that does not make me comfortable.
It doesn't.
I kind of do want to talk about that Michael Bay trailer you showed me about COVID-19 and turning to COVID-23 and all this kind of nonsense. It's like...
That was okay, first of all, was that not a mindfuck? That was, right?
You know what? That's the thing I worry about every day.
Yeah.
In my day-to-day of being in this relationship and, being committed and, worrying about a family and worrying about my brother's family and my parents and all that kind of stuff. In my head, one thing about Sikhi is that you got to be tiyar, but tiyar is that always prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Right. I love. Yeah.
Right? It's
You're-
like, you know, my heart, sometimes I look at these zombie movies from Hollywood and stuff, and I think that you said it before, they're just desensitizing you.
Yeah.
In case you do see it, it's like you're
When
numb to it.
You know, there was this documentary that I can't remember who sent it to me, but shout out to you, by the way, whoever's listening. But it was about like the CIA infiltration in Hollywood. And like I think I already talked to you about this, but like, you know, for the listeners that don't know, like it started back in like World War II, where, you know, Hollywood was infiltrated by the CIA to make sure that during the war, America was viewed as good guys. And so a lot of movies are pumped out. A lot of the movies in the 1940s were army based.
Yep.
You know, and
Getting people hyped up for war.
And since then, you've been seeing really fucked up movies like 2012, Contagion. It's literally like this documentary was saying that it's us getting desensitized so that when those events really happen, we're like, okay,
We just accept it.
we just accept it.
And
And that's that kind of really stood out. I'm like, damn, okay. So like now, you know, going back to Songbird, it's a trailer that I showed to John. It's a movie directed by Michael Bay. And for those people who don't know who Michael Bay is, Transformers. It's called Songbird. If you haven't watched it, watch it now. And it's pretty much about the mutated version of COVID-19, which is COVID 2023. And it like, gets into your brain, all this fucked up shit. So it's getting a lot of backlash, man. Cause
it's crazy. Creating anxiety. I had anxiety watching it. I'm like, what?
I
You're
was looking
forcing
at you,
people
bro.
into
I'm like,
camps and cities. And,
Yeah.
you know, you see me with my kara and my knife. It's like,
yeah, it's scary, bro.
and this is kind of brings it back to India as well. It's like, the beautiful thing about social media is that, you know, they were trying to be labeled terrorists and all this kind of stuff. But no, you can't lie now. If people have a phone and you record it, you can't lie about it now.
Yeah, well, think about think about the days where like people didn't have social media, so newspapers,
They controlled it.
they really had huge authority.
Narrative.
They were like the gangs, if you think about it,
Mhm.
because they controlled the narrative of society.
Mhm.
So that's why politics was very integrated into like newspapers and media and whatnot. It was not until the advent of the internet and social media that they started losing control. That's why like shows like Spider-Man. What was that? What was the name of his newspaper place?
Daily
Daily Bugle.
No. I don't want to say it's Daily Bugle because for some reason my mind's mixing up with Superman. And I don't want to offend the comic book community out there because I love them both. I do love both universes.
Bro.
You know, I don't like to discriminate
For
between
anybody
either.
tuning in, you guys know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And that's it, man. For real.
It's a concern for us. You know, we are, you know, I took, you know, I've been wearing a turban not too long, but there's a responsibility that comes with that.
Right.
I'm not taking.
How long have you? When did you decide?
It's only been a few months, and
You look good, man.
no.
I'm proud of you.
But the irony is that I did it because I didn't care about looks anymore.
Right.
The vanity. It's like I just, it wasn't serving me. It wasn't about serving me any purpose. It's just that it didn't matter.
Right.
I've seen things, and you know, this is where the anxiety of social media and all these news outlets comes out, because as you're living your day to day, you know, kind of life, you come home and you pet your dog or you play video games. Another part of the world, something insane is happening
Right.
with the world. So when you start becoming more conscientious of that, you first start appreciating, the people around you, the relationships you have, the things you're able to do. And I should have been talking to the mic a lot earlier. Apologies to the listeners.
No, it's fine.
But it's very interesting to see the evolution of your own self when you realize that you're going to die.
Yeah.
You know, that's an acceptance you have to have. And
I think that's like I've brought it up so many times on my podcast where, you know, we talk about this philosophical or this ideology of stoicism, where you really, really need to accept your death. That one day you're not going to be around. And when you start thinking about that as the forefront or in the back front of every decision you make day to day, and you relate it to that context, you realize that a lot of the things that make you upset, a lot of the things that stress you out are bullshit events in life that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
We decide to put too much weight. for that very
We
reason.
put ourselves into it.
And that's why, like,
And then that costs us too much. Like,
yeah,
this year has been a lot about accepting death.
right.
You know, last time we talked, Kobe passed away. Who would have thought?
Yeah,
Let alone the events to follow afterwards with the world.
right.
And you ask, you know, how do I follow this path? It's, even though it's a walk into it recently, it's been layering on
Right.
throughout life. You know, me as an individual trying to figure out my problems, thinking I have control over everything I can do, it wears you out.
Right.
Right? Sometimes I'm not sure who will understand, but sometimes you just have to let faith and power kind of just take over. Sometimes you're not in control of a situation.
Yeah, you gotta just have belief though. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody, anybody, whoever you are, like, be patient and have that belief that shit's gonna turn out proper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's funny because, guys, like, me and John, we've seen each other grow. Manny too. Like, you
Yep.
know, we had our gang, like our clique that we
Yeah.
kind of
Not gang. We're not.
not like that, but like
crew.
a crew of guys.
You know what I mean?
And dude, like, fuck, remember those days when in the club, here's the story. I would
Yeah.
literally be dancing around in the club. John would fucking be playing basketball with an
Yeah.
imaginary ball.
Yeah.
So
Like above the rim.
I'll see this guy, like, he's just dancing, but he's doing like jump shots,
Fadeaways.
fadeaways,
Crossovers.
Dude, you're killing me. Like,
Working
you're-
out footwork. I was too shy to dance with people, so I'm like, I'm here because I want to be with my friends. So
yeah, yo, guys,
you
for the guys that were there that night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yo, dude, that was straight G shit. Because, like, at one point, I'm looking at John. I'm like, yo, fucking pass me the ball.
yeah,
And
I was,
people are
I was
tripping
getting a
out.
few of those.
We were like, what did they do?
You know what I mean?
Doing? I'm dribbling.
But-
I'm doing some dance moves.
You know, like another thing people don't know, I don't leave the house.
right?
You know, I go to work, I go to my family, I go home. That's it.
Right.
So when I come see friends, it's a meaningful relationship. So even coming here today, when I think about that club day in the basketball, I'm trying to pass you an imaginary ball just to sit here thinking now I'm trying to walk towards Sikhi and
No,
yeah,
but
all that it's a beautiful. I have to thank the Lord that I even got to experience all that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
who was I to even deserve it?
That's so true.
You know, and that's, but in appreciation of that, especially in light of the recent events, the responsibility that therefore becomes more apparent.
Right.
You know, I've had the opportunity to live in the 90s with the Super Nintendo. My God,
Yeah.
how lucky am I? Where some people, my counterpart,
the CD Walkman.
Yeah.
Sony CD
where my
Walkman.
counterpart in some other part of the world is fighting for farm rights.
Right.
The fight that's happening over there right now, it's not a new fight.
It's
You know,
not. It's been happening for a while, man.
1947. We were talking about this in the past. Just a few minutes ago, and it adds to the narrative. Just to give you an anecdote about my family, it's in 1947. Essentially, our family was left to a handful. It was my great grandmother, widowed with 2 children, had to make it from at that time what was West Punjab towards the east. You didn't have time to wait till tomorrow morning.
Right.
Or 10 minutes. It was go now or a lot of bad things would happen, which did happen to a lot of families. And there's a lot of underlying trauma that's never been addressed there. People are talking about it. Our generation is talking about it, especially, with the different types of media, the poems. I love the activism in our community in terms of bringing out those stories.
Right.
I never thought I would have a platform to even talk about it.
Right.
I thought this is just something you keep within the family and that's it. But just to kind of give people kind of some perspective, is that when the partition happened in Punjab in 1947, my family, at least from my father's side, and I'm not trying to say that I'm telling my father's side of the story to talk about the patriarchy or anything like that.
Right.
I've asked my mother about her family as well.
Right.
They were actually situated in East Punjab at the time for quite some time and aided in the resettling of a lot of different people. But I mean, the story was that, a widowed mother of 2 had to flee their ancestral lands, make it somewhere else, and restart their life.
Right.
And now from that, my grandfather had 7 children, and there's grandchildren, and there's people living in England, and people living in Canada.
Right.
One family living in Punjab, couple, they're all over.
All over the world, yeah.
That one event, what could have turned tragic, spawned a whole generation and whole potential of people.
Right.
And now what's kind of beautiful in this movement that I've seen in Punjab is a lot of reconnecting with the diaspora in Canada and North America and abroad from Punjab.
And our home country. Right,
And you can agree with this, is that there was that narrative, even when we went back, is that they're not from here.
Yeah.
And even, my God, look what's happening here in Brampton is...
students and all that, right? Like
and people are treating them like you were any different 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Bro, you were the same.
Yeah.
I know stories about my family of them coming on a ship to this country, to that country. These guys are just hustling, trying to make it to Canada.
Yeah.
And down the road, they want what you have. A nice home, a couple cars, and a couple kids.
It's so true.
Right?
You're
So
right.
this situation with the land has kind of brought us all back together.
Right.
Because
It kind of reminded us, like, our lineage, that we all come
there is
from
no
that.
separation.
There is no separation. We come from a way of living that wasn't just to provide. It's who we are as a people. Like Punjab, the 5 Darya, like the 5, like that like irrigation was for a reason, right?
The history of that land is very deep. And even the history of Punjabi people prior to the inception of Sikhi
Right.
is also important,
Very
because
important.
they were Punjabi before that.
And I encourage everybody to do their research. I think
Yes.
that we all as community members have to do that justice to know exactly
What the area is about.
Yeah.
What do the 5 rivers mean? What's happening with the water table now?
Yeah.
There's, being the interesting perspective we can have, and I don't want to, consider it as a perspective that's not, how would you say, compassionate or empathetic to people who live there.
Right.
But, for example, you went to university and you understand economics very well.
You know I went to school in India too, right?
Did you?
Did you not know this?
No, I didn't.
Dude, before I came back, grade 8, 9, and 10, I was in India,
Where?
in Punjab. I went to this private boarding school. And my dad just decided it was a good idea because, he wanted me to get more culture, to speak the language and all that stuff. So I don't know how he convinced me to get there. I went there for a year, fucking wore a uniform. Dude, I had a uniform on, polish my shoes, go to fucking school. I look back at it, man, and it's such a crazy, and we talked about this before, and I'm like, wow, my life can be written like a book. You know? It's like a completely different version. Like I tried my hard to remember like how that experience was like, and I can't remember. It's like that's a different version of Sunny. This is a different, and we all have a version of ourselves in different storylines, right? And then India's storyline was interesting.
I never knew that, man.
Yeah, so grade 8, 9, and 10, I came back math wizard, killed it, crushed it.
There was a difference, eh? My dad wasn't talking nonsense.
No,
he always used to say, "You guys don't know anything about math."
Dude, I got like 96.5% at that was my average in high school, grade 12, and I took calculus, all that fucking shit. But thing is, I didn't drink until university. You guys fucked me up. You and Manny.
At that time we were lost as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I was found. But the point is like it's interesting because I look back at it. It's like, look at this today. And I'm sure everyone looks back at their own life, and if you don't, I encourage you to.
Yeah, you should.
You appreciate more of who you are today with that level of reflection. Because I don't care who you are. You can't tell me that you haven't changed in a span of 10 years.
10 years. Even saying it, and to be able to be at that age
like,
to
hey,
talk
man,
about it with
like,
some
yo,
weight.
John, I just want you to know that, you know what? I did not change in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Such a hard thing to say.
Well, certain things I've learned to identify and keep the same. Those core principles you always want to keep throughout any age.
Right.
And the fun thing about the scary part is you're growing up. But the fun thing about it is the reflection of it. And that's where the appreciation comes now. The appreciation comes immediately. Like, I didn't know you were going to do this whole podcast with ending 20 people. I just reached out to you and Manny because I'm like, my God, it's been so long. Yeah. I just wanted to see how you guys are doing because we're growing up. Our lives are moving on. Families are starting. And I think I said the same sentiment to you. I'll say to Manny, 40 years go by, I don't see your face. Big whoop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you, content with your life? If you are, believe me, the weight is off my shoulders. That's how, we always want to see each other just chilling. And then when we see each other, it's like a clink of a glass and just salute.
You pick up where you left off at the
That's
end of
how
the
it's
day.
always been, right?
That's why, I think that, communication doesn't have to be constant.
Nah, it's too much sometimes.
It's just trust that you pick up where you left off.
Yeah,
That's all it really is, right?
that's what it is, man. And
Like, look at me and you. I can't remember the last time.
we never
it-
chilled, you and I, ever.
yeah.
I don't think, unless we were at a party and you and I went
At
out
the
for
YP
something,
office, you're watching
or
something.
something
Yeah.
like that. But never, hey, this is an evening. This is from this time to this time. It's gonna be you and I. We've never done that. It's a damn shame as well.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame
fuck,
because I
man.
told you, I've come to Sonny's place and I'm looking at it, and I'm proud of him for the fact that, that's exactly what I want to do. He's being here, seeing his, ideas manifested in front of me is making me become responsible to myself for manifesting my passions. Because if I don't, I can't sit in front of this guy anymore.
No, man.
He won't
Yeah.
respect me.
No,
And
no.
now it's like, okay, this is where I talk about like, okay, I'm going towards Sikhi. I want to take care of my family. We talk about Gris Jeevan. You can't find enlightenment not having a family. Well, at least in terms of the Sikhi point of view. And mind you, I'm butchering this, and I would expect people to do their own research, as we preface it all the
disclaimer,
time.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's easy to kind of get away from the issues of family and go into the woods and meditate.
Mm-hmm.
Try finding that enlightenment while you're at odds with your wife.
Right.
And your kid's at 11 years old, and just you're not starting to understand each other anymore, and you got bills to pay. When you can find peace of mind, happiness, contentment, and patience and love for the world, all within that moment, in the beauty of it all,
Right.
in the chaos of family, that's what is driving me more towards this. This quarantine's been very interesting. I've been looking at my parents. I've been looking at my brother. I've been, I was grieving, in a sense, Kobe's death. But then I realized, as tragic as that was, I still got my family.
Yeah.
And that's what.
What was the biggest epiphany you had with this quarantine? Because I know it's been difficult for a lot of people, and I think that, John, like, frankly speaking, there's been a lot of silver linings.
Mm-hmm.
In my own personal life, this year has been it's been insane. So many great things have happened and are happening, but it's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the larger consensus is that a lot of people focused on themselves because they had no choice. They had to figure out what to do in their solitude, how to keep themselves entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this podcast was a big part of that, right?
For me, it's been a test of patience.
Yeah.
Patience and timing. When you're living with somebody, you're seeing them more often.
Were you guys already moved in before COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But what happens is when you're at work, you're apart from each other.
Right.
When you're next to each other, and if you're working at home, it can just become too normal. Right. And it's a profound.
I get what you mean, though. That's a kind of scary thought.
It's hard to explain. It's like, there's experience. Like, now I'm there, and then my parents are dealing with what they're doing in their house.
Yeah.
And when society was regular, air quote, sometimes you drive on a highway, and you see somebody pass by, like, I'll never see that person again.
Yeah.
And how many of those kind of people pass by in their life that we'll never see again? Now, all these people are in their home.
Right.
The main thing I'm kind of glad about society is that no one's really lost their marbles. Yeah. There was that toilet paper situation where people were going, all crazy. Yeah. And the concern is, what if that went a step further? But for the most part, I think, at least from a Canadian point of view, is we've been very cordial with each other. We've had our protests. We have our opposition towards masks. There are valid arguments on both sides, let's be honest. Right. When we're talking about science, we're talking about rationale. It's not that there's a virus and there's a vaccine and done deal.
That's it, yeah. There's more to it. There's levels to it because, we talked about there's economic implications here to consider. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of uncertainty as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that we also live in a very free world where everyone has a free opinion to how they think and what they can say and what they believe. Yep. And that's what, like you said, you got to respect both sides. It's a lot of frustration at the end of the day.
So I'm just happy that people are keeping it kind of cool with each other. Right. I'm hopeful that we come out of it positively. I'm hopeful that there's no big public policy change because I am in the public policy side. So I'm looking at these different changings of the laws, and I kind of want to bring up something about the Constitution and the way it's written. And
how's it written? Are we talking about the provincial or the Canadian?
The Canadian, right? So
Okay.
there's a preamble that essentially says there's a reasonable limits on all rights and freedoms as prescribed in a free and democratic society, and that's not verbatim. That's
Damn,
something I'm
dude, you remember that, eh?
That's something one of my professors taught me at York University.
Can you say that again?
That what the statement?
Yeah.
If you guys want to read it, it's in our Constitution, 1982. It says essentially there's a reasonable limits on all rights and freedoms as prescribed in a free and democratic society. That's not verbatim. That's me paraphrasing, but it's one of those things that I've kind of understood that if there's any limits on our freedoms in society, it's because of the people we elected, the structure, this British structure, this colonial structure, the same thing that, we can link back to Punjab. It's kind of, I don't want to trash where I'm living.
Right.
Because of its roots.
Right.
Even we were watching some of the videos of you in the BLM protests.
Right.
Just for me to even this is kind of my own naivety kind of growing up in this world, is that the concept of having one people have ownership and control over another people is so profoundly absurd to me. I can't even accept that it happened in our human history, that we're part of that same kind of existence, and that it's still happening now.
Imagine we're talking about I'm going to talk about the farmers protest in this case. Imagine I live in this condo, or you live in this condo. Right, so John is living in this condo that we're in the studio. A couple of people knock on the door, and they come out of nowhere and they tell you, "Hey, we now own this condo. You got to give me $2,000,
yeah, right,
a month." You'd be like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
That's why they're willing to die.
But
that's why the women and children in Punjab are saying.
So you're really taking away the land. By the way, I'm just dumbing this really down for a lot of people. Yeah. You're really taking away land that you own, so that you can pay in perpetuity a fucking like rent. You know what I mean? And I think that's a possibility of exploitation.
And it's already been passed in legislation. Because the biggest
by the way,
challenge,
that's like the most layman's terms out
right?
there. But
and that's why we encourage people to do the research. But in seeing these challenges, right? You look at the structure and it's governance. Government has been evolving as long as the relationship between human beings with each other has been evolving.
Right.
The system is what it is because if left to our own devices, the argument is it would be complete chaos. Our fear of what the other person is going to do is going to make us act preemptively and take them out. Therefore, because you're not responsible with your own power, you're going to, forfeit it to a governing body, i.e. the Leviathan. Thomas Hobbes kind of wrote about it. It's church and state into one big monster that says you guys are not capable of taking care of yourselves. Give us your power, and we'll create a little zoo for you guys to behave in. And that's what society is. Right. And now we're at this big place where that monster that we've created to protect ourselves from each other has grown so big, it's turned into something completely different that we, unless we band together, have no chance of defeating.
I thought about that idea, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, fuck, once upon a time, us as a species, we would protect ourselves from predators. We would go to the extent of, making weapons, making walls, and then over centuries, we get more and more sophisticated to the point where we build borders, then we have countries, and we fight. And
the predator became the other human being.
We become, we fight each other for land, and now all of a sudden, a virus that we've let it
asymptomatic,
hijack the way we think and view. And it's fair, it's a health risk, but we decided to place health above economics and finance, and that just shows the evolution of us as a species. And even it's pretty impressive if you ask me.
Freedom of choice,
sorry, not impressive. It's it's pretty fucked up and chaotic in the sense that it's so outside.
It's impressive in the sense if you're the guy on top controlling everything, because that's exactly how you would want it to go. Yeah, it's we're in weird times and we don't have answers. We're, you and I are here trying to discuss because you and I are the same individuals from the past, grown up, trying to figure out the same global pandemic together while taking care of our families. And now we have a continuing and more open struggle for our ancestral lands happening at the same time. Right? So what do we do day to day? how do we participate? How do we get ourselves involved? Absolutely bringing up awareness, but we got to have action items that we can hold each other accountable. Right. It's a lot to say.
That's what like I look at it like kind of like it's like trendy activism.
Yes.
Where you kind of see everybody doing it. Don't get me wrong, it strikes chords. You you feel emotionally connected to it, and then over time, like it just doesn't start. It stops becoming news.
What's your 3-month plan, 6-month plan, 5-year plan, 20-year plan for the cause?
Exactly. I think that's the way you need to perceive this issue and any issue that's important to you with that perspective.
And there has to be a collective perspective for that because it's an ongoing struggle.
Right,
The situation in Punjab.
This has been going on for a while.
Oh, well,
right? Like
naturally,
the landscape
right?
in Punjab has been shifting, for the last decade, if not more.
Hundreds of years. Well, this is where, although I'm early in my journey into Sikhi, I would encourage one day maybe you should have someone that is very knowledgeable about Sikhi, kind of explain to you, and I promise you that one day I will be one of those individuals.
I would want that.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Absolutely, because I understand one thing is that fighting for truth is it requires a higher sacrifice. You cannot fight for truth unless you're not willing to make the highest sacrifice, and that's what we've been taught throughout history. And if we're watching children that are of a younger generation than us willing to make that sacrifice for a cause, they are fighting nothing less than for the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? There has to be truth. If people are willing to stop what they're doing, make the trek all the way to Delhi, have caravans set up, have food set up. The organization has been very grassroots and beautiful, and they're willing
and
not
it's
to
so
come
peaceful,
back.
man. Like
And
some of the
of
pictures,
course it's peaceful because we're peaceful people.
and that's exactly the point. Like
We've
I think
never
the
been
media,
outwardly violent unless you guys came and attacked us.
You know
it's
what's
like
beautiful, man? Like all the langar I saw pictures of langar seva and whatnot, and just how this idea of people that don't know what langar is, it's free food. It was just fucking like amazing and made me proud that I come from that community. And that
You know what? I'll tell you one of the most gangster thing I don't like using gangster, but I'm using it in the way that we understand it as being born here and stuff. Is this one video of this Bajor, the senior? He's like, we're doing seva here. We're gonna feed them so they can beat us after. Everyone can come everyone can come have langar, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's no problem. Bring them here. We'll share langar with them, and then they can continue to hit us after. That movement's not gonna lose.
No.
Because it's the truth. Because you don't go to that extent. You don't go and be willing to make that kind of sacrifice if it wasn't for the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
And there's that kind of courage is only because of that kind of situation. You don't summon that kind of courage for a C-class situation. You know what I mean?
No, that's what I mean. Like you have to be pushed to the edge to
and now
get to that point.
People question what pushes an entire group of people with the diaspora all over the world to this extent. It doesn't just happen magically, and they don't do it because they're bored and they're just farmers and they're simpletons or whatever the case may be. They're not ignorant people. Right. They've been sustaining the agriculture for an entire subcontinent for thousands of years. That's not an easy task. That's a back-breaking task. It's not just about Punjabis. It's about all farmers.
Yeah. All across India, by the way, right?
Albeit there were farmers who were tyrant landlords. Fine. But the humble farmer, the simple farmer, as human beings have always been, was an individual humble farmer. I have a few animals, I have a few grains, feed my family. That's the most simple, humblest human being you could possibly get.
Subsistence living 101.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what it is. And
it's been like
and now
that
you're trying to take that away?
Yeah. So
what more do you want to take?
I think with John, I think one thing I wanted to add was in the beginning with the free market system, it might look appealing. They'll get bigger fatter checks. But over time, we always know that companies just want to make a profit and increase their margins.
Of course.
At the expense of lower costs.
Of course. We're nothing but cattle.
So you're going to take away that form of living, the subsistence, smaller household form of living, to now capital farming. And once you implement capital farming,
there's no going back.
There's no Punjab.
Let alone the seeds that they'll use, let alone the water that they'll dry up. These are things that there's no replacing.
Yeah.
We talk about environmentalism. Like, what about that?
Right.
I don't want to make a bold accusation, but I've always been curious into kind of figuring out where the environmentalists stand with Monsanto.
Okay.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, once a patch of land uses a Macento seed, and depending on what kind of fertilizer they recommend using with those seeds, if it alters the soil enough that no other seed grows there, is that not damaging the environment?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's how the seed works, but
the Macento seed. I'm like super ignorant right now, but what?
oh really?
What
Well,
is the Macento seed?
oh man, this is a rabbit hole that is true.
Okay.
So the Macento has trademarks on a seed that grows into a plant.
Right.
Like just the concept of that, having trademark over a seed, just let alone what that implicates is, oh my God, you're trademarking organics.
Right.
You're trademarking life, DNA, RNA, all that kind of stuff. The absurdity of doing that, the audacity to trademark God's handiwork, that's a sin. And Macento's been doing things like that for years. And now what they do is they'll, and mind you, this is where more research is done, they will make agreements with governments. And similar to Punjab, these corporations would buy these lands or take them over because of exorbitant amount of debts from these farmers. So they just absolve them of the debts, take the land, force them to go into retirement homes in the city in India. God knows what that's like.
Yeah.
And then...
That's essentially what it is, bro.
And then they put their seed.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the government passed it? Because Monsanto's like, yo, I got X amount of trillions of billions of dollars.
There's levels to it, right?
And it's not about putting your conspiracy hat on, but for God's sakes, man, like the game is the game. If me here in this little, this place, I can think of these ideas. Imagine what government think tanks are thinking about all the time. And that's not to sound, and I don't want to be dismissed as being a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, because we have to educate ourselves and question. There's no wrong in questioning what we're being presented as information, because we are facing a system that's trying to control us. Okay. And we're always in a back and forth for our civil liberties and our freedoms. And we see other groups in a different stage of their struggle. Right. Can you imagine that? We have our struggles as an Indian community. The goal, and I want to kind of give it...
Like ours, if you can take our struggle, and for people that are not from our community, they probably don't understand what's going on. Imagine all the struggles that are happening around the world for different causes and different reasons.
I want to actually give a shout out on the show over here. It's Dr. Andrea Davis from York University. I believe when I left, she was a department head of humanities. I know she's there still. And I asked her, I was in a class second year, and it was essentially about the African-American experience in North America. Right. And I'm a brown kid sitting in it, right? And I took that class on the recommendation of Dr. Radhakrishna Prasad of York University, who taught me public policy in my fourth year. It was very enlightening. I learned about Malcolm X, Dr. King, kind of the flip coin ideologies they had in terms of the movement, but a lot of similarities because of the core principles between the two. But I just simply asked them, like, what's the goal here? Right. I'm sitting in your class. I'm learning about African Americans, their experience. I grew up with African Americans or African Canadians. We call them black kids. Yeah. I'm a brown kid. That's what we called them back in the day, right? Yeah. And we grew up together. I grew up in Malton, and it finally hit. I'm like, they're in a different struggle. Like, for being in Malton, being kind of in this multicultural community, I didn't think there was a different struggle. I thought we all had the Canadian struggle.
Remember when I showed you and I was telling you about the BLM protests that happened in Toronto? Like, it gave me such a big perspective.
It's wild.
And when you're not a part of that community, I think it becomes more important, even if you're not Indian.
If you're not
as a global citizen,
if you're not
global citizens right now,
we have to be, and that's the goal. We have to be human citizens. Yeah. Right. So the main thing she taught me is, she's like, if you as a brown man understand a black woman and her struggle and the thing she cries about, then you can help the struggle. Right. I'm like, wow. And then I started doing the research, and then finding what's been happening. I'm like, that's where I feel like even we as Sikhs have a responsibility to fight for that struggle as well. If we, we're, originated in Punjab and, fought for South Asia against the Mughal invasion, fighting oppressors, here in North America, the story's been the same.
Yeah.
And the very ironic part is that the birth of America was happening at the same time as the birth of Sikhi.
Yeah.
The timing was the same. So,
well, I mean, you gotta also understand. And now I'm taking a little step out of this conversation in the sense that history is interesting because, like, Sikhism is the youngest religion in the world, apparently, right? And
unless you start counting Scientology, and
oh yeah,
I might make one a little bit later.
I totally forgot about that. But like, that's what it is. Religion, that belief system, and it's insane to think that. I know it fascinates me a lot, man. Just this concept of religion, how it's like we were able to create this idea and get millions of people to follow separate, different religions, right? There's this show that I used to watch called Mr. Robot. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen the first season.
It's fucking amazing, man. And it's like it's in a post-apocalyptic world from a tech perspective where it's like the end of the world, and this guy's like controlling the IT system and everything. And he's like anti-government pretty much, and he's going against the government. And it's just insane to see the level of reality that's happening in today's day and age.
Well, it's like they always ask: is a baby born bad or does it grow up bad?
Yeah,
I've always said that.
Where'd you read that?
It's one from my blurry university days.
I saw this recently too.
You know what I mean?
Great.
It's like I remember one professor trying to get in my head and try to convince me to be on the right path back when I wasn't, and I heard them kind of say that. And I've always been of the school that I feel unless something tragic happens, you're always yearning for good.
Right.
Because it's comfort and safety.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we're always looking to love.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our fears allowed people to prey on it and create a system in which love is not the ruling factor in our decisions anymore.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
What is?
I couldn't even fathom the grossness of what is that is in control of what is governing society when it should have been love.
Yeah.
Bob Marley talks about it. Guru Nanak Ji talks about it. The peace be upon him. The Prophet Muhammad talks about it. All these people talk about love and bliss with each other, and it's like,
imagine living in a world where that was a priority.
I know, but
your priority at work, priority with people, your interaction with one another. But it's not, man. That's not the reality that we're in. There's so many moving pieces.
What do we do? See, that's where that's where we can become idealistic and nihilistic at the same time. So it goes back to what it is, man. We control what we can control. We can do what we can do, and we keep moving forward positively.
You gotta stay in your lane at the end of the day,
Yep.
right? I think that's the most important thing is that, you can't really get distracted about what's happening around you, right? Because here's the thing: you never can drive a car on the highway if all you're doing is looking left and right. You got to look straight ahead.
Yep.
If you don't, you're bound to get into an accident.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that in life, as you go, you start comparing yourself? Because, that level of comparison can take you into a really dark place. You know what I mean? And I think that the biggest thing or gift that you can give yourself is this belief and that this is your reality show and there's only one character and that's you. And you do whatever the fuck you want to do because you want to do it.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
And then you start attracting that energy around you. Right? And then that's how you get, you attract the same energy, whether it's a life partner, whether it's friends, whether it's family, and then you grow, man. And that's it.
And I'm like,
that's the secret sauce.
That's the secret sauce, man. You always don't get lost in the sauce, but you got to have the sauce, right? No, it's always good to talk to people. That's the big thing, about this quarantine was, you start talking to yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You start talking to yourself quite a bit. Dude, and that's where I end up finding God. Dude, I told myself...
I'll be losing my mind, man. I'll be fucking freestyling here, walking around back and forth.
Freestyle? I'm like, I'm so tired of talking to myself. I'm like, God, let's start learning about you. You know what I mean? Let's figure out what this whole journey is all about, right? Because I realize one thing in this year is that I don't have the answers to anything, but I don't want to have a meaningless life. Right? I don't want to frivolously attach myself to a cause and not do it justice. Because I don't want to hurt no cause, but I'm developing myself and always positioning myself to always help humanity one way or another. And that I think that's what we need to do, whether it's a small step or a big step. If the direction is towards there, that's the best step first. And then whether you take a half step or a big leap,
Not even
just
that.
keep going
Like
there.
progress is progress at the end of the day, right? Sometimes you might have to take like 4 steps back to go 6 steps ahead, and you never need to you can't lose sight of the big picture. I think that's the most important thing.
I kind of have a joke
What?
that we should do a whole podcast of just straight like cliches, Instagram cliches, like you can't take 6 step forwards without taking it's like that. No, but the beautiful irony of it, they're actually right.
Yeah.
They're as funny and as kind of redundant as they are. They're constant reminders.
It's such a common lesson that we've been taught as kids.
Yeah.
But we need to go through the struggle in our own little book to figure it out. It's like,
And
fuck,
we're
man.
in year 31 of the struggle.
And I think I call it levels.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
Like in video games, you
Yep.
want to progress.
Level up, rank up.
You don't want to be at level 2 for fucking
Nah,
10 years.
I want to be the Grandmaster Sage at a level 100.
So we're at level 31. And every year there's a bigger boss.
Yep.
That means there's bigger challenges.
Yep.
There's bigger hurdles. It's just perspective.
Just like
And
Destiny.
just like
Yep.
games, if you get excited, be excited.
Yo, so, I don't know where we're going to end this podcast off, right?
By the
But-
way, John looks super excited right
because he just said, because this is exactly the whole thing. This is why I say I'm so proud of you, because now it's like that excitement. You see, how you can look kind of very dreary in your day. As soon as you said games, I bubbled up.
Yeah. You came
know?
alive, man. You were like slouching, and now it's like boom.
Boom. And now, because seeing you live your passion makes me believe, okay, there's some reality to that. Right. I'm not saying I want to give up my all my responsibilities to play video games today, but I do see a beauty in it. I'll give you a small example.
Right.
Music is key in our lives. Right. And what attaches me to something is the music behind something, because it attaches you to the feelings of it, the instruments, etc. Halo was one of those first games where the music was phenomenal, and now I never had a PlayStation 4 till January. Just to tell you one quick story is that I stopped gaming years ago. At PS3, PS4 came out, didn't touch it. They decided to make Final Fantasy, and they decided to make Final Fantasy 7 again, and that's a game I played in '96 on the PS1.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, they're remaking it, new graphics, all that, and I'm like, all right. I'm an adult now. I'm doing well with my finances. I haven't been blowing it on money. So I'm like, all right, I have whatever, and I'll get myself a PlayStation, and I'll play this game. I played the game a little bit, and my friend says to me, hey, John, there's a game called Destiny. The guys from Halo made it, right? I'm like, man, all right, whatever. I'll just try for a few minutes. I didn't touch any other game in the last, 7 months.
Serious?
Because the music immediately got me.
Really?
It got me with the entire experience. And that's why since then I've been thinking that, I've always had a passion for that, but dissecting games, looking at the different games in my head, when and if I do become, not when,
when.
or not if, pardon me,
No,
but when,
yeah, for sure, man.
game development.
Yeah.
In my head I had the best game, but it's like, what's the good it's going to do the world if I can't get it out?
You know what you should do, man? You should start a podcast on gaming where you review games.
I've thought about it. So I shout out to my clan, Corvus Ravens, for Destiny 2. Gang. I'll catch up with you guys later on.
Shout out to my gaming gang.
You know what I mean? And I'm doing this because one thing I want to do is, they don't know who Sikhs are.
Yeah.
Sometimes I talk to people on the mic about what my community is.
Where they're typically from? Like what part of the world?
New York, California.
North America at least?
Yeah, North America. I've played with people in India.
Right.
I'm like, how's this even possible? But it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I play with people in Europe, and sometimes when you talk, and the beautiful thing about this all is that when I play with these people, they get to know me on the mic and the game as that person, and then we can talk and we can build relationships about real life.
Right.
And sometimes they'll be like, hey, what's your name or whatever, and then I'll tell them, hey, I'm a Sikh. What is that?
Yeah.
I'll let them know.
What's your response? What do you say?
I'm like, hey, basically, I'm like,
Do you get into the history?
I kind of joke. I'm like, I have a turban and a beard, but we're from India, and you should do your research and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Because I'm not here to preach religion to anybody.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you have no obligation to answer
I
that.
still got to figure out my spiritual path before I start trying to feed it to somebody else's head, right? Nor is that my objective, right? Let alone some person on the internet playing a video game,
It's
getting
so true, though,
getting a
man.
Bible lecture from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you
I just
sorry.
let them know the amazingness that someone from a different culture
Doesn't know.
looks completely different from you is on the same mission as you.
Yeah.
Is that we got a goal to achieve, and that's the one beautiful thing about gaming is I realize it doesn't matter how you look, what you are. You're in an environment and you're trying to achieve a goal with everybody else, and you can't do it without everybody else.
That's so true.
And that's what human beings got to do. We're on a video game. There's a boss right now. Call it Donald Trump. Call it whatever superpower government that's trying to take down the people. But we're all in the game together. We got to create the fire team, and we got to beat them.
So,
Right.
So in your world, who's the bad guy? In your video game?
Oh, the responsibility falls on us as human beings.
Yeah.
The responsibility is always on the individual and the collective, and the individual's interaction with the collective.
Right.
We can't say someone is doing something to us without us consenting to them doing something to us in the
Right.
first place.
Right.
Think about that. We're in the system because we said it's okay.
Yeah.
And then we let the hands off the wheel, and now we're like, oh my God, we're flying off the road. And now you're trying to catch the wheel again.
Yeah.
Nah, like people have to really understand how government works.
Right.
It's tricky for a reason.
Yeah.
Because you don't got time to figure out the tricks.
You can't please everybody.
It's not
Yeah.
about pleasing everybody, but
Right.
it's about. So think there's a lot of good. And let's not preface anything by saying this whole system is corrupt.
Right.
First of all, there's a lot of positive, right? Imagine it's not perfect. Who knows where society could have been, but there's a lot of good and a lot of bad.
Right.
And in terms of finding God and spirituality, I have to accept that.
Right.
That it's not about necessarily good or bad. It's just all existing all at once. So is it about pleasing everybody? Can you save everyone's life? I don't know. However, actions of malice, I feel, are in the realm of control.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If people are intentionally acting malice towards other human beings,
Yeah.
that's where the problem is. If accidents happen, if people starve because there's not enough food, it's not like if there's not enough food because X amount of reason versus someone not allowing people to grow food.
Yeah, like hoarding.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Or like in that situation, like the government situation happening in India, right? Like that's exactly, it's upsetting, bro. You know what I mean? Upsetting, and it's also like it's a little bit.
I don't want to be angry. I won't.
Yeah.
I am angry. We're sitting here and we can start screaming and feeling that fire, and it's just simmering right underneath because it's like the injustice of it all is just absurd.
Right.
We sit here in Canada. Sometimes we have this arrogant perception that we're more civilized, we're not.
Right.
We're not different than anybody. We're one generation removed from those farmers.
That's true though.
We're one generation removed from that.
Now compare that to thousands of generations. You know.
And who
Like-
are we to think that, we've ascended on a level beyond that we can't be concerned with the same struggle that they're going through?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why, I haven't been yeah, I'm working. Yeah, I'm doing this thing. But in the back of the mind, that until there's not peace and resolution there, we're just kind of operating.
Right.
Because the link is literally within the blood now.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not just fighting for us. It's fighting for the fundamental, for all farmers all over the world.
Yeah.
It's fighting
It's
for
just-
the people's
it's
ability to
funding
even protest the
live.
government.
We're funding to live, right?
Imagine the whole thing with the vaccine is like, oh man, what if they say, okay, if you don't take it, there's restrictions. What are you talking about restrictions? If I don't take a needle from somebody, I don't know who you are, where that needle's been.
Let me ask you a question. Would you take the needle?
No.
You wouldn't take it at all? Why?
No. I trust my life choices with my life.
Okay. Did you ever take...
I would look. So with this whole COVID thing, I am courteous as a Canadian.
Yeah.
If you want me to wear a mask for you to feel safe, absolutely.
Right.
If you want me to wipe clean, sure, I will do it 1,000 times, no problem. Because I am going to be courteous to you. I know you have concerns.
Right.
But now the line I draw is when you're telling me I got to put the metal cylinder needle in my arm with some funky juice you got mixed up in a lab from a corporation that doesn't care about me
Right.
whatsoever to tell me that if this is the cure-all, This is a cure-all, guys. You know,
But here's the thing, like, listen. So, like, one of the
focus
things,
on cancer. You tell me you ain't got a needle for cancer. You could figure out COVID in a year, but you guys been
Yeah.
getting billions of dollars to figure out cancer and haven't stopped it for everybody yet.
Yeah.
But now you're trying to force a mandatory vaccine on us that you've popped out in 12 or 18 months because you want the economy to resume because people won't go to work without it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense.
It's true.
Now, if you take the vaccine, that's your prerogative.
Right.
For me, I'm not going to be comfortable with it no matter what.
So let me ask you something. Like, when we went to school and we were kids, and I'm sure if you really dig deep in your,
I've had the last
you
one was the
weren't-
hepatitis one in grade 7 or 8.
well, you weren't even allowed in school without those shots.
See, that's
So
the problem.
what I'm saying is, COVID-19, would that not fall under the bucket of polio, the bucket of
Look.
typhoid, bucket of, you know what I mean? Because we had to take those needles. Those are mandatory.
You see,
Otherwise, it wouldn't be-
I don't know if they were mandatory. I don't know if our parents at the time had the concern, and not that they weren't concerned, or had the time of day to even worry about that. They were immigrant parents trying to make it.
But so, what's your biggest worry about it, though? What's your biggest concern of hypothetically putting up chemical?
It wouldn't be hypothetical because as I've gotten older and become more understanding of how the world has been formulated, how the government has been formulated, the history behind these things, the more I've read and done the research, the distrust begins to grow.
Right.
Because the concept of a cure-all, and I know they don't use the term cure-all, but the crisis of what's happening now, first of all, the roots of it are debatable, apparently. We don't know see, the problem is, what's the truth? Is this thing real? Is it not? People are dying. Yeah. Are they recording the deaths accurately? You know, I don't know these answers. But when someone says, yo, you got to put a needle in your arm with some, I'm like, nah, man.
Fuck that.
You're gonna try pinning me down, or we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
If I can't come to your store, so be it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something. So, like, yeah, I get that. I agree with you on that. It's like I empathize the population that's down not to get the vaccine. I think one of the things is, like, you have to understand and appreciate that every response is a different response. Mm-hmm. Your response is your response.
Absolutely.
If you want to be a person that lives a life of meaningfulness, you need to be able to express your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You also need to have relationships. Like, this whole idea of us uprising, this generation from this part of the world, is because we have that connection and relationship with Punjab, thinking and believing and knowing that we are centuries and centuries of lineage. This is people's lives that we're fucking with.
Yep.
This is their way of living. I'm sitting here chilling, recording a podcast. Like, what can I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's frustrating.
I
Right?
think that's where, like, you got to use your platforms to be aware, do your research, be like, okay, what's really happening, and like, I think that's where, like, this whole, like, concept, even with the 9 episodes that I'm doing over the course of the next 28 days, I want to just pick your brain on the chaos that's happened in this year, which we've already dived into, but also, like, some of the silver linings and where you are today. I think there's a reality that we all live in today, a reality that I can guarantee you that we didn't really picture or even envision this time last year. If I were to tell you that we would be in a pandemic where you wouldn't be allowed to go to work, you'd be like, the fuck are you smoking? I'm coming over right now.
21 days later kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And, like, lo and behold, now we're like, it's the etiquette of putting on a mask.
I guess the silver
The
lining
etiquette
is
of
just waking up.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning. That in itself is enough.
Right.
Straight up. I'm trying to make the silver lining as simple as possible. And it's not, you can add the layers of family and all that. It's just waking up. Straight up. And now, be productive with it. That's my focus. That's the only thing I've come to kind of take out of this is, you woke up, do something.
Right.
Do something. Don't not do something.
And also,
right,
you know, laugh a little.
Yeah.
You gotta laugh. You know, you gotta enjoy life.
Jardikala, man.
You know, exactly.
You know, they were laughing. They're in high spirits. They're like, come eat our roti and hit me on the head later. It's fine.
Yeah, and that's the level of mentality and view and perception you need to have, because, bro, the energy you emit is the energy you receive.
The indomitable spirit.
The reality is a mirror of you, to an extent. within your immediate circle.
Yep.
And it might take some time. It might take
But
years.
when we start connecting circles, then we start changing the reality around us.
And that's what it really comes
And
down
that's what
to,
the
man.
movement is right now.
And that's
I think
exactly-
reality will change.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, man. So like, you know, I think 2020 has been, it's been awesome.
It's been one for the books.
It's going to be a big ass book, man.
You know, it's
It's
a paradigm shift, but always in high spirits.
Yeah.
We got our brothers and sisters around us. We got our family around us. We wake up every day. We work hard. We stay positive.
Yeah.
Take care of the people around you. Talk to people you don't normally talk to. Reach out to people you don't normally reach out to. Say hello. Give a nod to that friendly stranger who's wearing their mask and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
You can't see their smile. You can't see their frown. You can only see their eyes. That's, you know what? Just to end it off, a beautiful thing is now we look people in their eyes.
That's so true, man.
Everyone's got their mask on. Sometimes we will focus on the nuances of the nose or the mouth or the ears or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's dead center in the eyes. And I think you can share a smile through the eyes.
Yeah.
And be kind to everybody.
I can tell when someone smiles.
You know?
Yeah.
So do that, guys. Be safe. And we got to keep pushing forward.
Let's do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yo, dude. Thank you. Just to give context, we've been talking for 4 hours.
Yeah.
This is like the tail end of our conversation.
Wow.
I wish we recorded the earlier part of our conversation.
That was for you and me, man. That was for catching up between brothers.
The point is like, you know, what you said right now about like communicating. We are such a unique species where we have that ability to socialize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So be grateful for the abilities you have physically, emotionally, spiritually to be able to do those things.
Yep. Appreciate.
Don't limit yourself. Don't
Yep.
be okay and be like, okay, I'm going to be just chilling here
Yep.
with this. Do more because you can. Because there's people that are dying to be in your shoes.
Exactly.
People
And
in
like,
other parts of the world that are like,
and-
fuck, I wish I could be in his shoes.
don't take it for
Canada.
granted. Like even people that go through these struggles, you know, sometimes I feel that, you know, if you're too optimistic, the people that are down around you may not take that the right way. And we always just have to be cognizant of that. And this is pretty much a message for anyone that needs help, is just like, don't be afraid, man. This is a beautiful time where reaching out isn't such a bad thing. It's not stigmatized.
So true.
You know, when we're interacting with each other and you reach out, it's like, you know, is everything all right? Now it's like, no, you should. We have to be checking up on each other. We got to be kind and compassionate.
Mental health has become a big component.
Mhm. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, it's become a thematic topic in the sense of like, it is, you know, 10 years ago, we wouldn't be talking much about it. It was just more of a filler.
You and
thing.
I talking about mental health 10
Just
years
anyone,
ago?
Anybody. Like, what?
You know,
where's the
we wouldn't
bags?
even care if
Where's
you
the
told me,
drinks?
Sonny, you know, oh, John, I'm not feeling so happy today. I'm like, what did you say to me? Drink this. You know what I mean?
And that's a solution. You pour some Jack Daniels.
Yeah, that's what it
And
was. But now it's like,
I think now we need to normalize that level of conversation where, you know, you don't necessarily need to get fucked up to talk to your boys.
nah.
You can be able to pick up the phone and have
Just
a
be honest, man.
conversation
They're
and be
your
like,
boys.
This is how I feel. And
You know, it's like, I
and
seen you
girls,
at
by the way, anybody, guys or girls.
whoever your friends are. I seen you at 21. I see you at 31. I want to see you at 41 and 51. Right? And it's just, it's good to know in this life, I have someone to talk to.
Cheers to that, man.
Cheers to that. Right?
Yeah.
And make sure if you don't have someone, talk.
Yeah.
You be the one. Believe me, there's a lot of people that you just gotta say hello to.
And the other thing is, guys, we're not here just giving you advice and
No, God,
whatnot.
no.
We're just we were talking about how we can be better people.
Yep.
Myself and John, and you know, we talked about like so many different things and
It's weird. That's what the conversation was.
Yeah.
You know, it's connecting and
there's so many levels. Like the big picture, if I was to title this, it would be that, because we talked about bringing out that inner child and having fun. And that's my motto now, is like, work your ass off, but really enjoy the process.
Yep.
And surround yourself with people that you truly are happy with, that you enjoy their company.
That's it,
You know,
man.
like you said something about positivity. There's such thing as toxic positivity.
yeah.
You know Ned Flanders?
Yeah.
Imagine
Oh
that.
God.
That's what toxic positivity
Yeah.
is. You got to be
How do you know
positive.
Neberinos? I love it. I watch Simpsons all the time with a girl.
Yo, it's fucking it's crazy. We should watch it after.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like it's you can be positive, but you also got to be real.
Yeah. Be considerate
Yeah.
of someone. You know, someone has a situation, their family, they're not all bubbly.
Yeah.
You know, so you gotta approach every situation with clear eyes.
100%, man.
Right? Even if you are super optimistic and positive, don't let that just be your lens. And, you gotta, to bring people to your side, you can't ambush them with how you feel.
Yeah.
You gotta relate. You gotta figure out what's going on and build up towards
You
that.
got to build a level of trust, right?
That's it.
So here's a question for you.
Sure.
If you could have, who would the Donkey of the Year award go to?
Oh my God, what a question.
I was thinking about that the whole time.
Donkey of the, are we talking in the context of the world?
Anything in 2020.
Well,
World, your life, our lives.
I'm a very pragmatic person, so I think the responsibility and the donkey always goes to the people.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Dragon Ball Z
Dragon Ball Z.
from Gogeta.
My guy just pulled out a quote
The
from Dragon
Fusion
Ball
Reborn.
Z. Which
When
one was
Go-
that? Fusion Reborn. Is that from the original Dragon Ball Z? Or?
So this was Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball Z, the movie called Fusion Reborn, where Goku and Vegeta turned to Gogeta for the first time.
Yeah.
So he's like,
Dude, you're not kidding when you say you're a Dragon Ball Z
dude,
fan.
there's one line. He says, every voice in the universe has an echo.
Okay.
Your own bad energy will be your undoing. Now, I'm like, that line is, every voice has an echo.
Mic drop.
Your own bad energy will be your undoing. So when you say the donkey of the day, if you got bad energy, you're the donkey.
Take that in.
Because we going Super Saiyan.
Okay.
There's a lot of Super Saiyans out here, bro. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there's a lot of warriors of good. They're just waiting.
Yeah.
These people who are trying to oppress.
And this
Your
is why
time is coming, man.
This is why, John, I missed you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like,
Yeah,
we're not supposed to be open about that too much.
Yeah. Why not though? That's the thing. Everybody needs.
Tactically, you become targeted, right? But at the end of the day, I believe in good more than evil.
Yeah.
And I think we're you and I.
If you could punch evil in the face, what would you do? Or if you could
I'm
hurt
gonna
you?
punch you. I'd give it a hug. I'm like, how miserable are you to live your evil life?
There you go, man.
Like, so much
That's
misery.
a good answer, man.
I'm like, but then if you try to swing at me, don't get me wrong, I give it the 1-2. But if there's no swinging involved, it's just face to face, I give you a hug, man. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Chill. Just love each other,
Thank you,
man. Everyone have a weed brownie and just be good, man. What's this nonsense,
But that's the thing. Like, you think about animosity in this world and this idea of bad energy.
Because
look at how unnecessary
people
it often is.
people don't know who they are, and they attach themselves to ideas. And then it's not people fighting each other. It's ideas fighting ideas with people attached to them. Right. You have to know who you are. You have to humble yourself. You have to know your neighbor. Yeah. You have to help this person of this color and your person of that color.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? And then you realize, when you see a young baby cry, the same baby cries over there.
Yeah.
The same baby cries over there. There's no difference.
Yeah.
And now suddenly one becomes a Hindu, one becomes a Muslim, one becomes a Sikh, and suddenly they're at odds with each other.
Yeah.
But if they were infants, 1-2-year-old, and you put them in the in the playpen, they're chilling. They're eating the same baby crackers, taking the same shit.
Yeah, dude.
So now suddenly they go to a different structure with a different symbol on it, and now what? We have all this.
But that's like the whole argument of atheism as well, in the sense of religion.
But even then,
because religion was created for control. At the end of the day,
it's a power thing.
Not at the end of the day. That's what the program of religion was on that basis, to be able to control.
I see in going into spirituality, seeing the risks of a religion going rogue, not rogue, but amassing power.
Right.
I feel that the message, when you do study it, like even some people would think about Christ is like that. He had the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. That's a very Sikh-like principle.
Yeah, no, you're
or
right.
vice versa. I don't want to say one person claims it, but just the concept of itself is so simple that if we say that now the Christian religion as it stands today is a global power, sure. Mm-hmm. Remove yourself from that.
Right.
Remove yourself from what the religions become.
Yeah.
These people mess things up all the time. You give your kid your car, he's going to hit the bumper, let alone give them a religion.
Yeah. Well, think about it like this too, man. Like broken telephone.
Yeah.
We're talking about broken telephone over the course of generations.
Thousands of years.
You know
what I mean?
And I'm not stomping in anything like, I'm just more of like thinking about You know me, man, when I talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, man.
I just like this idea of religion. It gets me thinking that today so many different ideas were formed that millions of years from now or generations from now will be a religion that we will be like, what the fuck? You know
what
I
is
mean?
this one?
Like,
But I think the
but that's-
perspective we come from is just like when we talk about religion and all that, it's just two young kids from the old school system figuring out why everyone can't be friends. That's who we are talking right now, you and me.
Yeah.
We're the same kids trying to figure out in our 30s, why y'all can't be friends?
Yeah, for real, man. Fuck.
But things are much more elevated and the stakes are higher, but the question is still the same, and we're just trying to figure it out, right? And now we're trying to find out why these friends can't be friends, but these friends are called this identity and that identity,
Yeah.
right? So
And then you can go even granular and outside of religion ideas, anti-mask versus mask.
anti-vax versus
You know,
vax.
Did you hear about the Adamson barbecue joint?
Yep.
So apparently, did you know that he did not have a business license for 4 years?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
but,
man. It was a Toronto Star investigation.
But let's.
I don't know if it's like at the end of the day, it's only a couple $100. It's
well,
not a big deal.
he may not have had a business license, but what about the previous government selling off our hydroelectric plants to private industry?
True.
I don't know which one we're looking at here.
Yeah.
You know, if we're talking about this one business owner not having a business license versus the actual tax dollars used by a municipality,
That's so true. man.
let's be fair here.
Yeah.
That business license takes a few months to acquire.
It's only a couple $100 too. Yeah.
Right. If you want to get on him for that, go ahead.
Do you see, like, what do you think is the future of government? Do you see more control, less control? Do you see resistance? Do you see...
I do see resistance because the government doesn't know how much control is too much
Right.
and how much is too little. Remember, this is an experiment for them. As tough and big and powerful they are, they're still figuring it out.
Right.
That's the one advantage we have as free individuals and sovereign individuals, is that we know the person trying to control us has an incalculable factor
Right.
of the human spirit. You can't calculate that.
Yeah.
You can't calculate if the winds of change come behind the human spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any government can stop it.
No. Well,
know
so
what I mean?
we think in theory, right?
But that's just
We're only going to really see that. And unfortunately, like...
if a tyrant government, like, here's the thing, man. It's like the government's made of your own people.
Right.
It would take a small specific set to have so much autonomous power over the entire mechanism of the government that they're able to either eradicate us or do something. Because if the people, even though they may be busy, they're not dumb.
Right.
Just because not everyone is active doesn't mean they're not aware.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's circumstances that get in their way that inhibit them from being very participatory.
Yeah.
But if the catalyst is behind them, they will drop everything and go fight. That's what's happening in Punjab.
Yeah.
The same thing can happen here. The same thing can happen anywhere.
That's so true.
The human being has a line.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't know where that line is. And if they go too far, the human being will say, no. Remember who put you there.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens with democracies, right?
That's the one good thing about democracy is, at least in a democracy, there's an understanding that we put you there
Yeah.
and we'll take you away.
Yeah. No, man.
Not by violence, please.
Not at all. We condone that.
By logic and reason.
I absolutely agree, man. But yo, listen, it's been a great podcast.
Amazing.
I didn't realize, we went.
We can do this.
We can go on
You
and
know
on.
what I mean?
But man, it's good to have you, man. I think today I wanted to do the next podcast episode, just unwinding. This is my holiday break.
Yep.
I wanted to chill out and actually have conversations.
Mike or no Mike, man, this has been great.
And this has been awesome, man. This is how we talk at the end of the day. And I think that...
This is actually how we talk. I thought maybe we'd come on the mics and suddenly it'd be different. I gotta use my podcast voice and all that kind of stuff.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the conversations we had before this.
I appreciate your friendship, man.
Dude, I'm proud of you. You are where you...
Shout out to Sonny. Shout out, obviously, to the boy Manny.
Yeah,
and all the men
shout out to everybody, all the
York.
York gang. Anybody else out there that's going through their own struggle right now?
Shout out to the Punjabi farmers, the farmers in India, all the NRIs, diaspora all over the world, all the farmers, all the community coming together. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. everyone has a cynic mind, and what I've seen is absolutely beautiful.
And the unity, don't let the fire burn out. You
It
know,
won't.
Exactly.
The flames of justice won't get put out that easily.
No. But John,
It's been a pleasure.
my man, are you still hungry?
No, I'm good. I'm blessed.
Yeah, we had jerk chicken. How was it today?
Blessed.
Right? Shout out to Real Jerk in Toronto.
Yeah, man. Shout out your local businesses, man.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
We got a couple local businesses. We got Matsology in the house.
Nice.
Area 001. Maker's Pizza. You guys know the drill.
For sure.
This is good weed, man. I'm like, it's nice.
Yeah, man. You've been keeping up with the conversations, man. I'm sitting here,
No,
like
you
the good
killed
old
it,
days.
man. Yeah, guys, everybody else, we'll be dropping an episode every 2 days. This is Sunny and Friends podcast. Subscribe, tune in. Hope you guys, enjoy the holidays. Stay safe.
Check the new content coming soon.
Check new content. Check my boy John. Basketball starting again. That'll keep us talking. Oh, you excited for that?
Yeah, man. Basketball. Watch out for Maja Mamba on Twitch Gaming.
Okay.
It's coming. Shout out to Corvus Ravens.
All right, guys.
Shout out to following your dreams.